Okay, so I am Crystal and I'm part of the team here at Syncro. Again, thanks for your time hanging out with me this afternoon. We're going to start. I usually, kind of my flow, I talk about customer management, head over to ticketing, talk about recurring invoices more specifically, and then dive into the RMM. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to go into my demo customer Larry here. From here, I think there's a few things that I like to just make note of. One being custom fields. Out of the box, like if you log into your account and you haven't created custom fields, it's just going to look like this. It's totally customizable by you. So this is what it would look like, again, if you had it populated. So custom fields can be anything from a link to a text field, but we also have password vault built into Syncro. So you can actually create encrypted fields. You have to enter a password to be able to unlock that information. Custom fields can be created for your customers, contacts, tickets, or assets. So again, for your contacts, you can manage all your contact information straight from here, and they can have their own custom fields as well. So I think that that's important to just make note that that is there. You can see all of your ticket history for your customer, estimates, invoices. You can create contracts within Syncro. You can see their assets. I like to show off the quick view modal here because you can launch straight into a Syncro live session, run a script, change a policy, or create a new ticket straight from this page, which you're not going to find that unless you do have a fully embedded RMM MPSA. So just showing off the different ways that you can make yourself as efficient as possible. A couple other things here just on this customer information page. You can create appointments for your customers. You can create appointments straight from here, or you can do it from the ticket itself. And we do have a two-way sync integration with both Office 365 and Google Calendar. We also have an online customer portal. So this portal, what I'm showing you here is what an admin would have visibility. So they can see open tickets, all open tickets. They can see open invoices. If you integrate with one of our payment processors, they can actually make their payment straight from the portal as well. They can approve or decline an estimate with a click of a button. They can see their associated assets, and you can even create documentation that's viewable for them from their portal. Okay, so that's customer portal. And if I didn't mention this already, if you do have any questions, I'm just going to pop out the Q&A box as well as the chat box. It does not matter which one you use. I will look at both of them, but don't hesitate to ask questions as we're kind of rolling through this. So the next thing I think to talk about is all of the different ways that tickets can be created within Syncro. So your customers can create tickets for you multiple ways. They can do it from their customer portal. They can right-click their system tray icon and create a ticket. They can send you an email. You can create a mailbox within Syncro, a support ad or help ad. So if they do email that, it'll automatically generate a ticket for them. Let's see, the RMM can create tickets. So if you wanted specific alerts automatically creating tickets, you can set that up through automated remediation, and I do show that off as well. You can have, we have website integrations. So you can actually have a widget on your website and your customers can go there to create a ticket also. There's always going to be those cases where you have to manually create a ticket, whether they still just want to give you a call, which is fine. There's multiple ways you can do that. You can create a ticket from here. You could go just straight from the tickets page and create a ticket, hit the new button here. But I really like showing off again, and I do this probably too often, maybe on a webinar, but these quick view modals here, if you create a ticket straight from the asset, say Ian gives you a call and says, hey, I've got a virus on my device. If you know what device you're creating the ticket for, if you create it from here, that way the asset's already attached. You don't have to do that later. You always can attach something later, but this will save you some click times. We have what we call workflows in Syncro. So for example, for me on a webinar, my workflow is very simplistic. I only have 3 required fields here. I just want to get the ticket created. However, you can set your workflows up however you want. You can have it be required that you assign a technician or an appointment. You can create custom fields for your tickets as well. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and maybe Ian says, maybe he called and said he's got a virus on his device. So I'm just going to say this is a webinar ticket. The issue types here, these are customizable as well. So this is going to be remote support for me. And just a quick description, he says he's got a virus. So for me, this is all I have to fill out. I don't have to fill out anything else unless I want to, but that's based upon the workflow that I have created. So I'm going to go ahead and get the ticket created so we can take a look at it. So from here, I mentioned that the type is totally customizable, but so is the status. So you can add whatever, whatever verbiage you use for your company, you can add things to that. You've got your custom fields here. I selected virus removal. I have my tickets set up. I utilize worksheets heavily. I think they're phenomenal. So I have set up that I have worksheets automatically attached to certain custom field types for the ticket. So I selected virus removal, which enabled this ticket to automatically attach my worksheet for virus removals. So it can act as like a checklist. It could be a check box just to kind of like, okay, I did that. This can be really helpful. Even, if you're a one-man show, it's nice to just, if you're going back and forth from tickets, it's nice to just know where you left off. But if you have a large organization and you have to pass tickets from technician to technician, someone's out sick this day, you can easily see what's been done. And I also think it's a great training tool as well. If you're hiring new technicians, this is just a layout. Here, do this. So worksheets can come in handy. There are 3 ways you can track your time within a ticket. So one way is you can simply hit the play button. It's going to start tracking your time here. One thing to note, you can have multiple ticket timers going at the same time. If you do, it's going to log it up here. So you can easily go back and forth from ticket timers. So just bounce back and forth from tickets really quickly. It's also a nice indicator if you accidentally forgot to turn off a ticket timer. So it'll kind of let you know what's going on up there. When you hit stop, it is simply just going to enter it as a labor line item here. The second way you can track time, you can just view the log and manually enter time. Either maybe you don't like to hit the timer button, or maybe you just forgot to do it and you need to say, oh, I was there for an hour. You can make your notes and you can add this to the ticket from here. You have the option here if you want to either charge the time or not. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit charge time on one of them because I want to show later like what that means to actually hit charge time. If we go a little further, you can see I've got my asset attached here to the ticket, so it's easy to hop back and forth from the actual device detail page to the ticket. And then you can communicate with your customers as well. So anything that you type here, you could, if it's a public note, fine. They'd be able to, if they logged into their portal and looked at their ticket, they'd be able to see this comment. You can also email your customer. You can always apply a different like notice at the top here. A private note is totally internal, you and your technicians only. And then if you enable text messaging, there's 2 additional options that will become available. It'd be SMS and then SMS plus email. I'm going to go ahead and select private note because I want to show you the third way that you can track your time. You can say, okay, I was there 60 minutes, and you can choose whether you want to charge the time or not. I'll go ahead and charge it and add it to the ticket from here. Anything that you do communicate with your customer, whether it's communication with the customer or just internally, it's going to log it into the ticket here. Okay, so I'm going to head back up to the top because I want to hit this add or view charges button. This is showing here that I track time 3 times, but I only have 2 ticket line items. And the reason is because I only hit charge time on 2 of them. Any labor line item or any labor log item, you can report against that time. But if you don't want it to show up on an invoice, you just wouldn't hit that charge time button. This is also the place where you can add materials or products to your ticket. So within Syncro, we have products and services, which is a full-fledged inventory system. So if you wanted to add a, hey, I'm selling this person a Dell laptop, you can add that to the ticket. You can see I've got this item back ordered. Again, our inventory system is very robust. So I have a stock take on this item. It recognizes I don't have any in stock, and I can have this create a purchase order for me. The other thing too, though, you can add things just ad hoc to the ticket as well. So maybe you just, ran to the store, you got a cable and it cost you 10 bucks and you charge them 15, it's taxable. You could add that to the ticket. This is not going to add this to inventory. It's going to be like more of just a one-off thing. But this is a very clear view. If you hit make invoice from this ticket, these are going to be the line items that are on that invoice. So I'll just go ahead and do that, just because a lot of times, I mean, even if you do have people on MSP contracts, every once in a while you do something either out of scope or a customer that's not managed, and you would probably just create an invoice on the fly. So you can see one thing to mention here, these PDFs, everything is customizable from the admin section. So of course we give you some sort of a template by default, but you can customize the look and layout of your invoice itself. So you do have the options, like you could just email that to your customer from here. One other thing to note that I really like, if this customer had any other pending ticket charges, you do have the option, you could add that to this invoice too, so you didn't have to generate two separate invoices. Okay, so that's kind of the flow if it's break fix. You start a ticket, track your time, add material, create invoice. So that's one workflow. The other thing though that I like to go over in a webinar is more of the reoccurring schedules. So I mentioned you can create an invoice straight from a ticket. You could create one from an estimate. It can be just one-off. It doesn't have to be attached to anything, but I like to highlight reoccurring invoices. So this is where you go in and you basically set up a reoccurring model for your customer. I'm just going to go into one so you can kind of see the different options. You can call it whatever you want. You can say, I want to be billing monthly. You can choose if it's billing in arrear or in advance. You can choose when it's running next, of course. You can even attach a contract to a reoccurring invoice. I really like this option. If you check this box, you can have Syncro automatically create a ticket for you before the contract expires, which I think is incredibly helpful. You can have this, once it's generated, automatically just email that to the customer. We do support multiple billing models. So one, I like to mention, we do support prepaid or block hours. And then this option of add any pending ticket charges is pretty great. So this is like a very good use case if it's a managed client, but you're still charging them, for all work done. So anything throughout the month any labor that you did throughout the month, you could just be hitting charge time throughout the month on multiple tickets, and this option is going to automatically append those charges to this reoccurring invoice. So that can kind of save you some manual work. This is also an option if you have like a monthly maintenance fee, but then you also charge for labor on top of it. So this works pretty great. Then when you're actually creating your reoccurring invoice, again, you can use standard line items too. So you could have a reoccurring invoice that's blank that just has that selected, but you can also, like if it's a standard line item, this is pulling from your inventory, or you can manually enter something. If it's monthly maintenance and you want to charge, hey, I'm charging you $1,000 a month, like you can just add that as a standard line item. It'll generate on the schedule provided. We have an integration with Cloudberry, so this is showing that off. If you have a Cloudberry account, you can sync the two, and basically you can have their Cloudberry charges automatically append to this reoccurring invoice. And then these two options are if you bill your customer per endpoint. These are dynamic counters. So from here, a real common use case is maybe you charge one thing for servers and one thing for workstations. We have the ability to create saved asset searches, and that's done from the RMM. So you could say, I want to charge this customer $100 for every server they have each month. This line item is going to dynamically count up how many servers this customer has, and it will, if they added a server, which adding servers is not as common as your next line item where you have workstations, and you can say, okay, another line item for workstations, I'm going to charge you $50 a month for workstations. It's going to automatically count those up. So if they bring on 3 new employees that month, you don't have to go into this reoccurring invoice and do anything. It'll just automatically pick those new agents up. The other way to dynamically count is you can do it by the RMM package. So, and not knowing exactly how far all of you are into Syncro, but if you install an agent, the first thing it asks you is what policy you want applied. So you can bill per policy as well. So this will dynamically count up all of the agents that have that policy applied, and you can, obviously you can choose what you want to charge for that policy. So those are the different options of how to kind of bill your customers per endpoint. Okay, if anyone has any questions, don't hesitate. Either the chat box or the Q&A is just fine. If we go over, let's see, before I hop into the RMM, I do like to just show off documentation just quickly because I mentioned it from the customer portal. But if you create a new page here, you can see that you have multiple options. So it's all about the page type. So if it's internal and it's not attached to a customer, that's for your company only. You can have it internal and then attached to a customer, and then this will provide a link on their customer detail page to link to this documentation. If you want it viewable from their customer portal, you can simply go customer portal and it's only linked to Larry. And then your fourth option is that you can have it viewable from all customer portals. So if you want to, give lessons on how to perform those things that they call you over and over about, you can create documentation pages. Okay, so from here, I'm going to go into assets in RMM, and we'll start kind of going through that overview. And again, don't hesitate with the questions. But from here, you have a lot of information here. You can see, okay, I've got 6 computers with alerts, that's clickable. All of these are clickable. If you want to go to the event log error, you can just click there. The other way to look at all of your active alerts, you can customize these tabs up here, by the way. I've added alerts to my tabs because for me, I like to see things in list formats. So this works better for my brain. I can see all of my alerts. I can see, okay, tickets have been created for all of them. If they had not, and of course it links to the ticket. If there wasn't a ticket created, there's an option to create one from here. You can view the alert, or you can mute or delete the alert from this screen as well. But just highlighting there's different ways to look at things, just depending on how you like to see things. This little magnifying glass pop out over here, this is how you create your saved asset searches. So in that reoccurring invoice, this is where it's pulling from. You create your filters and you filter for servers or workstations, that kind of thing. So that is one use case, using reoccurring billing. The other one is maybe you just want a dynamic counter for something. You want to know, I want to know Windows 10 machines that have a certain application installed. So you could just get a dynamic counter just if you want to run a script in mass or something like that. But then in addition to that, you also can send out mass mailers based upon these saved asset searches. So we have, it's kind of hidden, but it's called mailer. So for example, if you wanted to send out a mass mailer to anyone that had a server because you were doing maintenance on Sunday, you could easily send out an email using these saved asset searches. Okay. Further, let's talk about the way that you can filter this list of assets. So you can filter by customer or site. You can filter by asset type. So I'm going to go ahead and say Syncro device. All of these other assets, I think it's worth mentioning just because you can see them here. These have been manually created. So like the router and the printer, we're not monitoring those yet. We will have SNMP in the future, but currently those are manually entered assets. You can house information for them. You can create tickets against them, that kind of thing. But I'm going to go ahead and filter by Syncro device, which means if you install an agent on a device, it's going to be a Syncro device by default. That's going to be the type. So if we scroll down here, you can see you can customize this view as well. So if there's different columns that you want to see, you can, we got pretty granular with this list, so it's great. You can really customize your view here. And if the headers are in blue, they are sortable. You can also see right away, if your asset is online or offline. And then I'm just going to drill down into one here. This is a virtual machine that we have on our demo account. And from this view, I mean, you've got quite a bit of information just right here. You can see that right away, okay, this is the base package policy on this device. You can absolutely change the policy at any time. It does not require an uninstall to reinstall. And so you can see that right away. I like to just mention that because policies are what's driving your assets, period. So by creating the policies, you're creating what you're monitoring and that kind of thing. So you've got your recent activity feed here. You've got your asset information. This does pop out and give you additional information. But all of the sections here above, like specifically monitoring, I've got 2 triggers applied. That's because the base package is applied to this device. So, I mean, if you want to monitor more things, that's done on a policy level. It's not like these settings are manipulated from an asset. For antivirus within Syncro, currently we have MCSoft and Bitdefender as an offering, but then in a few weeks we will have WebRoot as well, and I'll go through that on a policy level. For scripts, you can see anything that's historically ran. You can see if it's succeeded, failed, or errored out. You'd be able to see if there was anything pending, and then you can add scripts to the queue from here. And I'll show you how you can populate your scripts list as well. But you can choose if you want it to be a one-time script or a script running on a schedule. You also have the ability to set up system checks. So if you add a check here, it can either be a ping, HTTP check, you can enter your remote host information here. You can have it check every so often, notify, and rearm. You have an up-to-date active list of all installed applications. We do even have a notification setting in our admin section if you want to be notified if your end users are either installing or uninstalling things. And then lastly, and then I'm going to look at a couple questions, you have control over Windows patches. So from here, I don't have a policy applied to this device, but you can see like I've got a ton of missing patches. You can choose if you want to install all of them at one time. You can go through individually or just select the ones you want to install. And then you can also see everything that's been recently installed. I'm going to head over to policies here in a sec, but I'm going to read some questions first. Can we allow clients access to remote access so they can remote into select set of computers? Tom, good question. The answer to that is not through Syncro Live. If you integrate with Screen Connect, which we have an integration with Screen Connect, I just found out that you can allow your customers remote support from Screen Connect, but not currently from Syncro Live. It has been highly requested that from the customer portal, they can have remote access into their devices. Currently, they can run scripts from their portal, but not remote sessions. Let me look at this other one. Oh, cool. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to head over to policies here. So we can kind of walk through, when you log in to your account, we give you a couple policies by default just out of the box. These are in no way like best practices or anything like that. These are simply examples. You could 100% wipe it clean, start fresh, rename, that kind of thing. I'll just go ahead and hop into one though so we can walk through it. You can see the assets that the policy is applied to. You've got your organically built-in triggers here. It's nice we are creating ones that now auto resolve, which is great. We also have the ability to override the low hard drive space. So it used to just be set at 15%, but now we've added so you can override that. You can override it on a policy level, and this is actually one of the only triggers that you can override on just an asset level as well. You've got event log policy alerts. So this just opens the door wide open to monitoring. If you want to do some more extensive hard drive monitoring, you can have this preset selected. But you can also create your own event log policy. So if you wanted to be notified, it's interesting because I just emailed about this. If you want to be notified if there was a failed login, there are no thresholds for that, to answer your question in the email that I was about to respond to. But if you want to be notified if there were failed logins, you can create an event log policy for that. Or really anything that reports to the Windows event log. You've got CPU and memory usage alerts here that you can set. If you had a policy, this may be a little bit more specific to a policy applied to a server, if you want to be notified if that server goes offline here. And then here's Windows updates. So if we click here, you can see if you create a new Windows update management policy, From here, you can say, okay, let's go ahead and I want security and critical updates to patch maybe a daily basis. And you can say, I want it at, 11. And then from here, you can say, okay, if it requires a reboot, this is how I want Syncro to respond to that. You can even put your message that you want your end user to see. You can create more than one Windows policy because you might want security and critical updates to patch daily, but you might want feature packs and definition updates to patch like the third Thursday of the month or something like that. So you do have quite a bit of control over the categories. We are not blocking specific KBs at this time. However, if you want to block a full category, you just wouldn't have it running on any sort of schedule. So you could schedule everything else except for like feature packs because they're known to be volatile. You could just not have that running on any sort of schedule and it'll block those updates. Okay, so then on a master policy level, you can see you can add your Windows Update policy to from here. You could have, like I said, you could have a different policy for every category if you wanted, and you can add them here just as long as they don't contradict each other, of course. Third-party application patch management is pretty similar in design anyways. So you create your own policy. You can see how you've got your applications listed here on the left-hand side, and then you can choose how you want Syncro to respond to them. So that's third party. So once you've created your policies there, and again, it might be different from customer to customer or, window like servers versus workstations. So then they're available here in this dropdown. Okay, so antivirus. Currently, you have the option of Bitdefender and MCSoft, and I mentioned WebRoot will be an option soon. But the main difference is, and it's interesting, so Bitdefender and WebRoot will be similar in design. So when you enable Bitdefender, we install it, and then that asset shows up in the Gravity Zone portal where then you can apply antivirus settings there. The settings are pretty dang granular, and you can apply them to groups of assets very easily. MCSoft is pretty fully built into Syncro. So there is no separate pane of glass. There's no other portal. Everything's here. You can choose, how what types of scans you want to do, and you can see how surf protection will act. You can choose how you want file blocker to act, that kind of thing. So everything's built here within Syncro. There is not a separate pane of glass for MCSoft, where there is for both Bitdefender and WebRoot. Then you've got your system tray icon. So by default, there is a little Syncro Octo in the system tray that is customizable from the admin section. And then a right click will allow your customers to create a ticket for you. You can choose if you just want to hide that system tray altogether, but you can also override it. So you could say, okay, if you want to still let them create tickets from the system tray, you keep the portal there. If you want to add additional things here, you could say, okay, how about I want to send you to my website, and then I want to put some text in there and put my phone number. So you can add some things to the system tray from here. Okay. Lastly, on a policy level, you can have scripts running. So this is a setup script option. So this is going to run upon Syncro installation. Maybe it's gathering information for you or populating custom fields or installing something. And then you have the option to have a script running on a schedule. So this is where, at a very basic example, you want temp files cleaned every Friday night at midnight. You can add that to the script schedule on a policy level, and it's kind of like a set it, forget it type of thing. Okay, so again, if there is any questions as I continue to go on, don't hesitate to drop those in either the chat or the Q&A. I'm gonna hop over to scripts now. I love showing off scripts. I think our scripting engine is phenomenal. We give you quite a few scripts just out of the box. So when I showed you on an asset level, when you go to run a script, you'll have some pre-populated scripts there. But you can utilize our phenomenal community script library. So from here, if there's a script you like, you can simply import that into your scripts, and now it's available to you to run on either an asset or a policy level. And then in addition to that, if you do write your own scripts, you can do that within Syncro. So if you go to new script here, you can see you can write your script in these different file type options. However, PowerShell is by far the most robust. It does offer up scripting variables. So whether it be a runtime variable or a platform variable, and again, just highlighting the power of your RMM being fully embedded with your PSA, your platform value could be something like a contact custom field. It's pretty incredible. So then furthermore, if you scroll below the actual scripting window, you can see we have a PowerShell module with some quick help. So if you import that or copy paste that into your script, basically, you could have a script running that logs time in a ticket or adds a comment, clears the alert, closes the ticket. So there is some really amazing things you can do with the PowerShell module. And again, that power comes directly from having the RMM fully embedded with the PSA. Okay, kind of piggybacking off of that, I want to show off automated remediation. So if you go back to your assets and RMM page, you can also get here from the admin section, but I'm going to go to automated remediation here. I'm just going to go ahead and create a new automation so we can kind of see it from scratch. So you set your conditions. So first I'm just going to say, how about my trigger category is, and maybe low hard drive space. If I leave this condition just like this, you absolutely can, but this will be global across all of your Syncro devices. You can further define that condition though. So you can say, I actually only want this automation to run if I have low hard drive space on my workstations. If that's the case, now once that condition is met, this is how I want Syncro to respond to that. So now you can add your actions. They do not have to be in any particular order, but for example, let's convert it to a ticket. Let's predefine all of these fields here. Let's assign it to a specific technician. And then you can add things. So maybe then you want it to run a script. Maybe you want to clear up temp files and then use the PowerShell module to log 30 minutes in the ticket and then clear the alert and close the ticket. So again, this can really create some efficiency within your process. And I think like once you dive into Syncro and you realize, okay, this alert comes in and then I do this, it's really nice to be able to come in here and just automate that process. Okay, so a couple other things that I'm going to go over today, and then I will take a breath and answer any questions. I'm going to go into the admin section. From here, I mentioned a couple of these things, but it's worth showing it off. We have security groups. This is where you can go and you can create new groups. You can create a group specific to each technician if you wanted to. But if you hop in here, you can see you have a lot of control over who's logging in and what they have access to. So again, this is pretty granular, and we continue to add, functionality to our security groups as well. In addition to that, we have a notification center. So it's in a similar design where you create, you can have a new notification setting for each technician as well if you wanted to. But this is going in and saying, okay, this happened in Syncro and this is how I want to be notified. So you can choose how talkative you want Syncro to be. Maybe you want to know every time a customer is created, you want to know by an email. So you can choose what you want to be notified on and then how you want to be notified. Couple other things that I think is worth showing. I mentioned that you can customize your invoice template. You can customize pretty much all of the things that are communicated to your customers. So whether it's the email that's letting them know they have an invoice available to look at or the invoice itself. Again, as mentioned, we do give you something by default, but you can edit this invoice template. It's in a simple editor. You can drag and drop, you can move things around. So we try to make that as convenient as possible there. And then I think the last thing that I'll show before I just kind of open it up to any questions, reports. So within Syncro, we have quite a few reports. We continue to build off of these reports as well. This is an area that we want to, be very robust. A couple ones that I like to just show off. I'll go with customer RMM for today, but you can just do it by customer. what I like about this is that once you run the report, you can have it running on a schedule. So you can have it be in conjunction with your reoccurring invoice. So I like that idea. You never have to manually run this report again. You can add additional text if you want to let them know, maybe give them a little bit of background of what they're seeing. But I like this RMM report just because it doesn't have anything to do with tickets or time spent. It's specific to alerts. So, I mean, they can immediately see the issue types that, you know, if you're doing doing your job, they probably have no idea that these things ever happened. So it's a great way to just represent your value, issues by computer. You know, oh my gosh, I had critical alerts and didn't even know it. So it's just a really nice way to let your end users know what you've been doing throughout the month. Okay, so from here, like I said, I'm going to leave the room open. I'll probably just put myself on mute here real quick. And then if there's any questions, please don't hesitate. Again, Q&A or chat box works just fine. But if you do have to run, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this webinar. And I will also put, I'm just going to go ahead and put my email address in the chat box. Let me do that right now. It always happens. We'll log off this call and you'll think of additional questions. So don't hesitate to reach out. But again, thank you so much. I'll leave the room open for a little while longer though if you have any questions.